Hello and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, a conversation of ideas. And in this very special episode, we have the United Kingdom's new Foreign Secretary, the Right Honourable David Lammy, on the Dialogues. Thank you so much for being on the show, Foreign Secretary.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here in India and to be with you.
And it's actually fantastic because we last met in February when you were Shadow Foreign Secretary, and you had this confidence that the Labour government would be there after 14 years, and you said you'd be back in India very soon, and here you are.
Here I am. I mean, I said that I wanted to be in India if I became Foreign Secretary within a month. I'm here within 3 weeks, and it's an indication of the importance of our relationship, the growth and opportunity, I think, that the UK and India working together can achieve. India is a global superpower, the third largest by 2030. There's a tremendous opportunity to work together, and I'm here to launch an important security tech initiative that has both our countries, our entrepreneurs, our scientists, our innovators working on AI, on quantum, on biotech, on carbon, on all the issues that matter for our future economies.
Really, and you talked also of resetting relations with the Global South. I think that initiative is really a major part of that. But of course, in India, what we've been hearing about now for, I think, over 2 years, Diwalis have come and gone, is the foreign trade agreement. You made that point that this is just going to be the floor, not the ceiling of India-UK relations. But what's actually going to happen on this now with the new Labour government in place?
Well, let me just say I set 3 things that we would reset. We're going to reset our relationship with Europe. We're going to reset our relationship on climate and get back to climate leadership. And it's been wonderful to be here talking to your Prime Minister about India's climate leadership and how the UK can work with India going forward, and a reset in relations to our relations with the Global South. And India is at the pinnacle of that, of course. Look, we will get back to discussions on a trade agreement. Of course, we've only been in office now for 20 days. So, of course, we will get back to that agreement. And I hope we can find a win-win. But I've been clear, this is the floor, not the ceiling, on our relationship. I think the UK-India relationship has been underperforming. I want to get it to overachieving. And with 1.6 million Indians in diaspora in the UK, that diaspora combined creating 700,000 jobs across our economies, there is so much more that we can do together.
Some of the key sticking points, and questions being asked, what will an FTA under the Labour government actually look like from the UK side? Because some of them have, of course, been on Scotch whisky, well loved on both countries perhaps, automobiles, and also the easing of visas. Now, is this about bureaucratic tangles, or is there real political will to get this done? Maybe this Diwali, next Diwali, any targets?
Well, look, we sought in opposition not to be unnecessarily partisan about this. The government set successive targets and missed them. So I'm not going to set a target. My colleague, Jonathan Reynolds, who leads for us on trade issues, of course, we'll be getting into this over the coming days. The importance in the end in any trade deal is to have a win-win. There's got to be something in it for both sides. I don't want to get caught up in the weeds of what is still between us. That is a matter for negotiation. But I hope we can achieve something over this coming period.
You talked about resetting relations, but of course it's also a reset of relations which happened, say, between Indian voters and the Labour Party. We saw Prime Minister Starmer in the Swaminarayan temple a few days before the election talking about the fact that there's no place for Hindu phobia in the Labour Party and that there's a spirit of seva or service. How do you think that's actually changing, and also in relations with India? Do you think Labour has some work to do there?
Well, look, let me just say that my great-great-grandmother left Calcutta as an indentured worker and went across the Atlantic to Guyana. And so I have Indian heritage. That is the tremendous story of empire, of course. I have now been to India so many times over the years, and I was reflecting as I was coming through the monsoon rain about being here. I think I must have been about 20 at the time. Of course, there's no place for discrimination of any kind. We are determined, absolutely determined, to strengthen our relationship with India. And I'm really pleased to see new MPs arriving into Parliament of Indian descent.
And of course, immigration. Now, some observers call this an immigration election. You've seen Mr. Farage and his party getting 5 MPs. The last Labour Prime Minister, Tony Blair, in a letter in the Sunday Times, wrote to the fact that in immigration, if you're not going to have rules or a plan, there are going to be prejudices. Given that Indian students are the largest number of international students in the United Kingdom, much of the rhetoric is often quite racist, and there are worries. The graduate visa route was one of the issues which Indian students are worried about. What is Labour's stand going to be on immigration and for Indian students and workers?
Oh, look, let's be clear on this. Students from India represent, I think, about a quarter of students studying in our country at any one time. It's a figure around about 500,000. I mean, it's huge. And that's because we've got a very strong higher education sector, and there's huge synergies now that are opening up between higher education here in India and, of course, in the UK, and I welcome that. There has been a debate. It's a debate right across Europe about those who are coming on small boats across the Channel, coming across the Med, coming across the Western Balkans, largely seeking asylum and fleeing the Horn of Africa. I don't think we should confuse that debate with the warm welcome that Indian students get in the UK, and that's why they represent such significant numbers.
So visa conditions are not going to be made tougher for them?
Look, that is not a matter for me, it is a matter for the Home Secretary, but I think that we recognise the huge contribution that students make to our economy. And look, I'm here launching a tech security initiative. If you're serious about AI, if you're serious about quantum, biotech, semiconductors, carbon and the work that we can do together, this is where we want more synergy between our innovators and our young people, it seems to me, going forward.
One of the big worries for India has often been the rise of Khalistani extremism or anti-India extremism in the United Kingdom, and the feeling that the British government isn't doing enough to crack down on these elements, referring of course to the incidents last year when the Indian flag was also, in a sense, there was an assault on the Indian High Commission. How is this government going to be tough on this?
Well, let me just say on a personal level, I lost a very dear friend in the 7/7 bombings in London a few years ago. So terrorism has touched my own life. And there can be no place. We have to bear down on any counter-terrorism. And it's been very important to talk to Prime Minister Modi. I shall meet with Foreign Secretary Jaishankar a bit later to, of course, discuss these issues and the seriousness with which we have to take any terrorism in any form in our country.
Of course, you've met Prime Minister Modi today, but Prime Minister Modi also had a meeting with President Putin, a hug, a photograph of which went viral around the world. President Zelensky of Ukraine said he's very disappointed. And we had the US here, the US ambassador, saying that you can't have strategic autonomy in a conflict. Given that the UK, of course, is supporting Ukraine very strongly, anti-Russia in its statements, what is the UK view on India and our relations with Russia at this time, and what would you like to see India do?
Well, look, I hope that India is able to bring its long-standing relationship with Russia to bear to encourage them to end this imperial act of aggression that we're seeing in Europe. I recognise India's long history of non-alignment. I recognise its relationship with Russia going back to the end of the Second World War and the beginning of the Cold War. India's a very influential country, that is the truth of it. It's a leader in the global south, it's a superpower. It has friends all across the globe. It's to bring that leverage to bear so that we end this war, we end this act of aggression. And of course, as India pursues a balanced approach, I know that India recognises it's important to work with Ukraine as well.
Finally, you said you want the India-UK relationship to overachieve. Give us one thing you'd like us to overachieve in besides perhaps cricket, where we are leading.
Look, I think on the issue, India's a massive race to clean energy. I think there's more that we can do together. We've set this ambition of a clean power alliance. These are countries that want to go deeper, further, faster than the UN system. I hope that we can partner with India over the coming months on that clean power alliance, work together really, because the pace of change, the pace of innovation is extraordinary, I think, and often not fully understood, I think, in the global community.
Foreign Secretary, thank you so much for being on the NDTV Dialogues. Thank you.
Thank you.